would have been the 9th Duke of Marlborough. Here was a man who had dominated the world stage for 3 decades, and then turned down every hereditary honour a grateful nation could offer, including the title of Duke of London. From that moment, Charles never allowed himself to be referred to as the Hon again. His ultimate ambition was now above mere titles. Another undergraduate who listened to Churchill that night was also considering his future, but he did not view proceedings crammed between his fellow students at the back of the crowded hall. The tall young man, dressed in white tie and tails, sat alone in a large chair on a raised platform, for such was his right as president of the Oxford Union. Although Simon Kerslake was the firstborn, he had otherwise few of Charles Seymour's advantages. The only son of a family solicitor, he had come to appreciate how much his father had denied himself to ensure that his son should remain at the local private school. Simon's father had died during his son's last year at Lancing College, leaving his widow a small annuity and a magnificent McKinley grandfather clock. Simon's mother sold the clock a week after the funeral, in order that her son could complete his final year with all the extras the other boys took for granted. She also hoped that it would give Simon a better chance of going on to university. From the first day he could walk, Simon had always wanted to outdistance his rivals. The Americans would have described him as an achiever, while many of his contemporaries thought of him as pushy or even arrogant, according to their aptitude for jealousy. During his last term at Lancing, Simon was passed over for head of school, and he still found himself unable to forgive the headmaster his lack of foresight. Later that year, some weeks after he had completed his S-levels and been interviewed by Magdalen, a circular letter informed him that he would not be offered a place at Oxford. It was a decision Simon was unwilling to accept. In the same mail, Durham University offered him a scholarship, which he rejected by return of post. "Future Prime Ministers aren't educated at Durham," he informed his mother. "How about Cambridge?" she inquired, continuing to wipe the dishes. "No political tradition," replied Simon. "But if there is no chance of being offered a place at Oxford, surely—" "That's not what I said, mother," replied the young man. "I shall be an undergraduate at Oxford by the first day of term." After 18 years of 40-yard goals, Mrs. Kerslake had learned to stop asking her son, "How will you manage that?" Some 14 days before the start of the Michaelmas term at Oxford, Simon booked himself into a small guest house just off the Iffley Road. On a trestle table in the corner of lodgings he intended to make permanent, he wrote out a list of all the colleges, then divided them into 5 columns, planning to visit 3 each morning and 3 each afternoon, until his question had been answered positively by a resident tutor for admissions. "Have you accepted any freshmen for this year who are now unable to take up their places?" It was on the 4th afternoon, just as doubt was beginning to set in, and Simon was wondering if, after all, he would have to travel to Cambridge the following week, that he received the first affirmative reply. The tutor for admissions at Worcester College removed the glasses from the end of his nose and stared at the tall young man with a mop of dark hair falling over his forehead. Alan Brown was the 22nd Don Kerslake had visited in 4 days. "Yes," he replied. "It so happens that a young man from Nottingham High School, who had been offered a place here, was tragically killed in a motorcycle accident last month." What subject was he going to read? Simon's words were unusually faltering. He prayed it wasn't chemistry, anthropology, or classics. Alan Brown flicked through a rotary index on his desk, obviously enjoying the little cross-examination. He peered at the card in front of him. "History," he announced. Simon's heartbeat reached 120. "I just missed a place at Magdalen to read politics, philosophy, and economics," he said. "Would you consider me for the vacancy?" The older man was unable to hide a smile. He had never in 24 years come across such a request. "Full name?" he said, replacing his glasses as if the serious business of the meeting had now begun. "Simon John Kerslake." Dr. Brown picked up the telephone by his side and dialed a number. "Nigel," he said, "it's Alan Brown here. Did you ever consider offering a man called Kerslake a place at Magdalen?" Mrs. Kerslake was not surprised when her son went on to be president of the Oxford Union. After all, she teased,